Now then, rider progress summary for Logan Stone in Brans hatch. So, best theoretical lap here is 51, absolutely dead. 1/1000th of a second is all that's left on the bone there before you cracked the 50s, basically. So this was a very challenging weekend, just to illustrate. This is the progress over the entire weekend. It was very challenging because it was freezing cold, and nearly every rider I worked with was about 3 seconds off their usual personal bests. Just to comment briefly on those. So if you look here then, a mixed bunch of laps. It's kind of nice that what we can isolate straight away is that the purple lap is beating the blue lap here, but the blue lap's beating the purple lap there. So perhaps they're the best two laps to start looking at with different trends. Although the green lap has a lot of speed here, held for a better amount of time, it doesn't appear to be making any gains down here on the lower graph that are significant enough to even isolate that. So we will move on. So without overcomplicating these laps, I just want to have a look at these two braking markers here, where you've clearly gone in a hell of a lot faster. This is up the hill into turn 2, as you can see from the bottom left. Maximum speed on the blue lap, 166, and maximum speed on the purple lap, 178, a whole 12 more. Sorry, if I just zoom in for you, you can see it on the top right. There you are. So that is all basically compounded. Like, you know, you had a similar apex speed here where there's not too much difference going on, but you know, it's 1k an hour there. On this, it's 111 for 110 at the apex. But I think you definitely drove in there with a lot more ferocity. And if you look at the braking trace on the purple lap versus the blue lap, no, sorry, it's not a braking trace, but if you look at the rate of deceleration on the GPS speed, but basically you were consistent all the way from the point of hitting the brakes until you hit the apex in 1 before you drove out of there, you know, that kind of way. So, you know, you definitely had more confidence. The blue lap, maybe someone's in the way again, you just sort of cruised up to the tip-in point, and then on around the hill you go, you know, the kind of way. But it's definitely compounded. Whatever confidence you gained on the brakes in that lap, you definitely carried it in for the apex here. Blue lap is beating you here, so the maximum speed in the blue lap, 144. On the purple lap, 140, so there's only 5 in it. This is on the downhill section into turn 3. Now, just want to have a quick look at this as well. If you think about this now, the blue lap is 0.4 of a second slower. All right, so I'm just going to check at the end of the lap, and here we have a gap of 0.3 positive, and you see there the line is on top. So that means then that as the line moves upwards in this graph, we're losing time, right? And then basically as it's moving down, we're gaining it back, right? So I'm just going to check something here for a sec. There is something significant to come out of this. So excuse me for having to pause. But what's confusing is that this is a deficit in time to the blue lap of 0.7 seconds, right? And if you look at that point, the purple lap has actually been faster for longer. All that there, the purple lap has had a higher GPS speed, which is where this comes from. And you'd swear that that time would stay off, but actually all that time was made back to that point there, which is a time deficit of only 0.1. So whatever you did between that and that in this lap was worth 0.6 of a second. And I believe you're on the gas there, if you look. So you have to be, because the GPS speed's going up. But you arrived at a higher velocity. And if I just zoom in here on the lap as to where that is, this is changing direction, coming around this bottom corner here, turn 5. or entry into turn 5, if you like. So it's kind of significant because if I look at the line here, let's go back just a touch, right? It's unfortunate because you were on for a great lap time and it looks like you went up the inside of somebody. Purple lap being highlighted in white on the inside. Yeah, very hard to see the colours on this. So let's roll through, see what happened. So you had a nice, good line on the blue lap. You're on the gas literally from that point there until that point there. And you've now arrived at a higher GPS speed, only 5, up until that point. Now your lines are drastically different through here. So the purple lap goes wide and the blue lap stays a bit tighter. It's unbelievable because you wouldn't expect to make up a half a second in that. So I don't know, the purple lap was definitely tight in and then wide, and then the blue lap made up all that time by riding. I guess it was all made up all that time. If I just look at the graph again, literally from wherever you hit the throttle, which is just after the apex. So whatever's gone on each lap, you may have had somebody in your way on the purple lap. As a matter of fact, if you look back at the race data, I think that is the case. You were in traffic for a little while here and you had a clear run in the blue. That must be what's going on, because it's not very normal of how you ride Brans Hatch Indy. So, but yeah, that was worth its weight in gold anyway. So enough of that. One sec now, we look at some fun stuff. So, maximum lean angle achieved in turn 3. The reason I'm using turn 3 is because it is a corner which you need balls, I suppose. There's no way to slice the cake. That's exactly what I need to say there. It's definitely for the brave. And it's interesting again here, you've hit 57 degrees of lean angle, which is quite good because, to be honest, when I'm using my calculator to see the proverbial limit, 58 is my go-to angle. So not bad, within one degree of what my normal calculator would be used. The calculator I'm talking about is a lean angle calculator where centrifugal force and all this is velocity dependent. So if you want to increase your lean angle, you would have to add some speed, which I mentioned before on the blue lap then as well. The maximum lean angle in that case was only 50 degrees. So if you think about the change in that, that's quite a lot to go from 57 from literally just 50. So that's pretty big. The next left-hander as well, the blue lap had the maximum, which is about 52 degrees. Flicking around there, just trying to find it. One sec. So 53.5 degrees then on the second left-hander. So if you think about that then, just in comparison, that there is perhaps inconsistencies, but they're not major things, but they are areas where performance could come. So how do I advise a rider to perhaps extract the performance in terms of being consistent with lean angles? Well, it can be muscle memory in terms of where your knee is. You know, if you look at a lot of photographs of the world champions and stuff like that, they tend to not have their knee sticking out beyond the elbow. You know, so very, very hard thing to feel, and perhaps it's a little bit mega advanced, you know, the kind of way. But in terms of making sure, like, even if you had a preference for left-hand corners and you can lean hard into those, it is a metric to say that, well, you know, perhaps on this particular lap, the left-hand turn 4, there could have been a little bit more pace to help with a little bit more lean angle, you know. So, and again, none of this is negative. It's all just constructive, positive, you know. If we move on to a right angle corner, this gets rid of the theory that perhaps the rider prefers one corner to another. But here you've actually hit 57 degrees, you know. And that right-hander, if I just point, it's got to be turn 6. It is entry into, so if that's 3, this is 4, 5, middle of 5. I'll call all this back straight then, turn 6. But So just in the middle of turn 5, you're achieving a very similar lean angle on the opposite corner. So there's definitely nothing to say about the consistencies in terms of left versus right, if you like. So that's pretty good. What have I got here? Brake G as well. While we're at it, we might as well look at the maximum G force achieved. This has got to be downhill into 3. I'll just confirm that. Yep. Okay, downhill into 3. We're just getting ready to tip on in there. I like G force as a metric because it really does say to me how much the rider is willing to punish the bike on the brakes. 0.9 G as well, just to say. So if you think about these two corners, Logan has another video up where he's in Alton Park, and in Alton Park, the maximum effort achieved by Logan was 1.07. Now, this particular event happened before that particular event. So if that is the maximum braking force seen, I'll just check this blue one over here. 1G, right? So that's 1G. Can't zoom in, sorry, I do it with the camera. So we have 1G on the blue lap, right? The point is that, actually that's an uphill braking zone. So we'll stay on this because it's comparable. Between round 1 and round 2, Logan has improved by 0.15 G in the brakes. So obviously that's because you're becoming more familiar with your bike and you're starting to trust it again. I'd say downhill braking is tough anyway, but the difference between downhill into the second chicane in Alton versus downhill into turn 3 in Brans is that you would have a little bit of lean angle applied in Brans hatch while you're trying to get slowed down. So perhaps that has something to do with it as well. And actually, if I dare say, you can see here at the bottom, right there with 1G applied. I'll just move my camera up. So we have 0.9G here on the purple. And in the purple, we're actually at a lean angle of about 20 odd degrees. So that's why there isn't like negative 1.2G. So that shows a lot of skill as well. So the bike is leaned over and we're still nearly hitting 1G. So well done and good ride. And as a matter of fact, if I do believe this was a podium winning race as well. So congratulations on your efforts. Good man. Well done and keep it up.